Today on Las Vegas Life Off Strip, we are at the Smith Center for Performing Arts here in Las Vegas. We get the opportunity to sit down with Myron G. Martin, President and CEO of the Smith Center for Performing Arts. We're going to hear about the history, we're going to hear about the community engagement, the education levels, and everything that came up to building this, to making it a world-renowned theater. You will not be disappointed. I promise you, you'll thank me later. Welcome to Las Vegas Life Off Strip. I've got a very exciting opportunity today. We are at the Smith Center here in Las Vegas, the Smith Center for Performing Arts, and I have the pleasure of interviewing Myron G. Martin, the President and CEO of the Smith Center for Performing Arts. Welcome, Myron.
And I got a middle initial and everything. I love it. I'm going to just call you Joe D.
That's fair.
Okay.
That's probably safe for both of us. So the intention behind today's interview is to share, this amazing community asset that we have at the Smith Center. And, we have a mutual friend in Don Schneider, and we're sharing with Don, what we were doing about sharing Las Vegas other than the Strip. Don immediately said, you got to have the Smith Center on there. And I said, absolutely. So first of all, I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to hang out with us today. And looking forward to hearing your thoughts on all your years here at the Smith Center.
I appreciate it. Isn't it perfect that we're here in the Don and Dee Snyder Founders Room, the guy that you had the conversation with? So I think it's appropriate that we're in the right place.
That is perfect. The first thing I want to start with is, obviously there's a number of us here locally that are familiar with the Smith Center, have attended events at the Smith Center. But I want to talk a little bit about the history of the Smith Center. I think anytime we're talking about anything of cultural connection, we want to understand how we got to where we are. So if you wouldn't mind just sharing a little bit of the path.
Yeah, so here we are. The Smith Center's been open about 12 years now. But it was about 30 years ago when the conversation started about Las Vegas being the largest community in North America without a world-class performing arts center. Now, here we were, the entertainment capital of the world, but we didn't have this. We didn't have a place for first-run touring Broadway shows and symphonies and ballet companies and all kinds of arts, cultural, and entertainment offerings to come to Las Vegas. So we found back in the day that those who could would hop on a plane and take their family to New York or San Francisco or Chicago to get their doses of culture. But we longed to have something that was our own, a place right here in town where we could, for the first time, get the first run Broadway touring shows and all the great performers from around the world.
When you think about the city of entertainment, which Las Vegas is, and the concept that piece was missing, it's intriguing to me because we bring all kinds of shows here. What would you say, other than the length of time that a program would be on? And what I mean by that is a lot of things that run on the Strip have a very defined start and end period in order to fit. So some shows get cut to fit within the window because they don't want them in there too long. They need to get them on the floor. What do you think the biggest separator for the Smith Center would be then?
Well, so first of all, having produced shows on the Strip in my past, I will tell you, I hear this a lot, where people assume that the casinos don't want any show that lasts more than 90 minutes because they want you in the casino. Well, that may or may not be true. I brought the hit musical Hairspray to the Luxor many years ago, and we, in fact, did cut it to 90 minutes.
Okay.
Because we thought that it would be a better show. And in Las Vegas, you never know when intermission comes around if tourists might think the show's over.
That's a fair assumption.
Right? And they might just head back to the casino thinking they'd seen it all. So there were some changes. What comes to Las Vegas now are first-run tours that run exactly the same way they run on Broadway.
So you don't necessarily need to take that flight to San Francisco, Chicago, and New York.
Not only do you not need to, but what we have here in Las Vegas, we like to think is better than you would get in those other cities. I mean, when we were studying what the Smith Center would become, for some years, everywhere I went, I traveled with a camera And I can tell you stories of how we went to the greatest halls in Europe and took lots of notes and lots of photographs to try to understand what it was that would benefit Las Vegas the best. But I also carried a little tape measure, and I have dimensions of every seat in every Broadway theater. The dimension across, how big the seat is, how much leg room you have. Trust me, the Smith Center is a lot more comfortable than any of those seats that I measured in New York City.
Well, you think about the planning. You said that the original idea came, it was, I believe you said 30 years ago?
Yeah.
And it took about 18 years. And here you are measuring the details of the seat. That speaks to the depth of thought process that has gone into every detail of the Smith Center.
Well, it's true. We set out, and Don Snyder and I put a business plan together 20 plus years ago that said that not only would we run this like a business, but we were going to create something that not only the community longed for, but something that would provide an asset for the community that didn't exist before. So yeah, we had time to study it in a way to make sure that not only was it run like a business, but it was built in a way like the greatest buildings in Europe that have been around for 120, 140, 150 years, and maybe more important to those communities today than they were when they were built. That's what we set out to do here at the Smith Center.
And I imagine doing that from scratch before you ever got started on the ground versus trying to fit something into an existing structure probably gave you a lot of added latitudes to be able to design exactly the layouts you wanted.
Yeah, we didn't start out saying we want a certain architect or we want a certain look. We started out by talking about the program, the building program. How's this place going to get used and by who? And while the Strip is the most popular place in the world for tourists,
Right.
we wanted this to be the most popular place for locals. And it's true that when Hamilton or Wicked or one of the big shows is in town, that we will track out-of-town zip codes.
Sure.
But we were out to create something that people are excited to bring their out-of-town visitors when they come visit during the holidays.
Good excuse, family and friends. Here we go. We're going to take you to this. You're going to see this first class, as you said, first run Broadway shows coming through. So just thinking back through that history, 12 years and the facility's been up and running. What are some of the events or performances that really just stand out to you? And I know that's a long list, and I know I'm kind of like, putting you in a corner here. I'm not saying like they're not all amazing, but is there any that for you stood out?
So to understand this,
Yes.
We've been open for 12 years. We're doing about 500 shows per year. So you're asking me which of my 6,000 children
Do I love you best?
more than the rest?
Fair.
But listen, I would have to start with opening night.
Okay.
Opening night was an event that was produced by the great George Stevens. George Stevens created the Kennedy Center Honors, among many, many other things. And he came to town, and he knew the importance of this night. It was going to be televised nationally on PBS, and we went after the biggest names in show business. So on that night, we had Neil Patrick Harris hosting. We had Jennifer Hudson, and we had Carole King, and you see, there's so many that I'm going to forget most of them.
Yeah.
One of whom was Willie Nelson, and I want to tell you a story about Willie Nelson a little later. But opening night at the Smith Center was unforgettable. The TV show was so successful that PBS reran it nationally 3 different times because it was a really incredible night. And it was right here at the Smith Center. And the show ended with Jennifer Hudson singing a song that she said to the audience, this song was originally meant for a musical called 1800 Pennsylvania Avenue. It was a musical about the White House. And this song is called Take Care of This House, meaning we as Americans should take care of the White House.
Oh.
And she says to our audience, tonight I sing this about this house.
Beautiful.
And we want all of you here in Las Vegas to take care of your house. And she sang this song, and the whole audience was in tears because we all realized that that dream that we had, that dream in the desert of creating something really special, had in fact come true.
18 years of all the measurements and traveling and
Yes.
figuring that all
Yes.
come together.
Yes.
So as that show opened, and I imagine this is true for a lot of events, but that night had to be, as you were telling me, I started getting goosebumps on the back of my neck thinking about all the prepared work that needed to go into that. And this would be honest for you. Were you calm, cool, and collected? Or were you, yeah, okay, fair enough. That's what my assumption would be.
No, I wasn't calm. I mean, you have to remember, not only did we have the world's most talented people flying to Las Vegas to perform, we had truckloads of camera equipment ready to produce this thing for television. And I wasn't 100% sure that we were going to have the building finished in time.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it.
Getting your permit?
This was a $470 million project that opened on time and on budget without debt. $470 million project, on time, on budget, and without debt. But did I know that we were going to have everything perfect in time for that opening night performance? No, no. Did I worry that Jennifer Hudson was going to miss her plane? Sure.
Mm-hmm. Every possible worry was coming up, right?
Yes, yes.
So we're going to fast forward through the show. She's singing that closing song. What's going on for you?
By that point in time, and this being the closer, I think I was able to take in a breath
Mm-hmm.
and take in this moment and fully appreciate what she was doing. What an extraordinary performance she had. And in fact, you can still see it on YouTube and on other places of Jennifer Hudson and others just bringing their A game to Las Vegas.
I think we'll definitely share that link so that people can enjoy the story of what you're sharing. On time, on budget, doesn't happen without any debt. That doesn't happen very often. So I imagine the team that was put together to pull all this together had to be pretty special.
Well, the team was special, but it really starts with the guy who this room is named after, your friend Don Snyder. Don and I were locked at the hip, to use his words, for many, many years. Not only did we write this business plan, but we had an understanding with each other that we weren't going to start building something until we had all of the construction drawings finished.
Mm.
You know, one of the things that we do in Las Vegas is we start building when we're still in, schematic design. Right? We start laying footings, and because every day that we open late is another chunk of cash that we don't make at the casino, right?
Yeah.
Here at the Smith Center, we only had one opportunity to get it right. So we said to each other, we won't start until we have all the money in place, until we have all of the drawings ready and approved. So when we started building, we knew exactly what we were building. We knew exactly what this room was going to look like. We knew how many bathrooms we were going to have and where they were located. And Joe, let me tell you something. Go to a theater anywhere in America and see how long the lines are for the ladies' room.
100%.
Right?
My wife talks about it every time we go to a show.
I'm telling you. And that's not a complaint about the Smith Center. Not only did we design restrooms on every floor, but we put them on both sides of every floor. So no matter where you're sitting, there's a convenient place for you to go at intermission.
And that makes a big difference as part of the entire experience for the evening. You don't feel like you're being rushed or hurried or, waiting, and you're now going to miss as the curtain draws again, right?
Yes.
So I want to go back to what you talked about with the funding.
Yeah.
The Smith Center, the Smiths.
Yes.
I mean, it's incredible. What I'd like to hear from you about Fred and everything they did.
So the Donald W. Reynolds Foundation, which was originally based in Arkansas, was, of course, a creation of Donald W. Reynolds. We knew him here in Las Vegas as the guy that owned the Review-Journal, among other things. But his company owned newspapers, television stations, radio stations from Arkansas west.
They're massive.
They were massive.
Yeah.
And when he passed away, he asked Fred Smith, who was the president of the company, who, among other things, ran the Review-Journal right down the street, and the rest of the company. He asked Mr. Smith to look after his estate. And he said, I want my money to go to do good things in the communities where we worked. And so they set off doing just that. And here in Las Vegas, if you drive around, you're going to see the Boy Scout building and the Boys and Girls Club, and you're going to see KNPR radio station, all bearing the Donald W. Reynolds name. That's Mr. Reynolds. Well, Mr. Reynolds had been gone for quite a long time when we started having a conversation with Fred Smith, the president of the Reynolds Foundation and the guy who was president of Don Ray Media, about the importance of a world-class performing arts center in Las Vegas. Fred Smith was really quick to say to us, this is really great. The work you're doing is important and we're impressed, but it's not what we do.
Okay.
They were giving money to other kinds of nonprofits. He said, but we would like to hear more about it. Don Snyder and I got together. We had a conversation in their boardroom, and they said, well, you know, we don't want to get your hopes up because this really isn't the kind of thing that we do. But we think it's big enough that our full board should hear about it. So we went into a board meeting.
I imagine going into that meeting, the lips might have been a little parsed.
No. You know why? Because at that point in time, Don and I finished each other's sentences.
Yeah.
We weren't making stuff up, right? We were ready before we prepared.
Yeah, like a great performance, everything was in sync.
There you go.
Yeah.
Just like that.
Yeah.
So me going in with him gave me great confidence that we were going to be able to tell our story in a way that was compelling. Did I think that was going to result in a big check? No, but it was so important to us and to the community that they needed to know about it. So it wasn't long after our meeting that Mr. Smith called Don and said, hey, you want to run by the office today? I want to visit with you about something. And Don did. And after a fairly long conversation about all the things that the Reynolds Foundation had done, he said, you know, at that board meeting, you said that you weren't really here to ask for anything, but you thought that an appropriate ask, if you were to ask, would be something like $50 million. Well, that's a lot of money.
That's a lot. It's a big check.
And he said, so anyway, we've talked about it. We agree this is really an important project for Las Vegas. It's really not what we do.
That line comes up a few times.
But here's what we're going to do. We're going to give you the $50 million. Wow. Well, then we were off to the races.
That's it.
Within a week, in that same time frame, we were in front of the county commission, who had agreed to put in a car rental tax on visitors' car rentals to help subsidize this. Mm-hmm. It was something that had been passed at the state legislature and passed down to the county commission. That got done in that same period. And then the city of Las Vegas agreed to give us this 5 acres of land on which to build a world-class performing arts center. It was a big week.
That was a week?
That was a week.
That'd be an incredible week.
So we are sitting in the Smith Center for the Performing Arts, the Fred W. and Mary B. Smith Center for the Performing Arts. As you and I are talking, I'm looking off to the side, and I see a bronze sculpture of a pig. You see, Fred and Mary were from Arkansas, and they were big fans of the Arkansas Razorbacks.
Okay.
and Mary Smith had a collection of pigs. That happens to be her favorite. We bought it at an art gallery in Carmel, California, and it now lives with us here at the Smith Center. But these are the Smiths. Not only did they help make the Reynolds Foundation first $50 million gift possible, but on that same day, Fred and Mary Smith said, and we want to toss in $1 million of our own.
Oh, incredible.
Yes. And Jody, I want you to know, and I know you're going to have to edit this, but I want to tell you that wasn't the end of the Reynolds Foundation's involvement. Over time, the more they saw and the more they learned and the more they got excited, the more money they wanted to help with this. And at the end of the day, this $470 million project, $200 million of it came from the Donald W. Reynolds Foundation and the Smith family.
$200 million.
$200 million.
It wasn't really what they do, right? And thank goodness, to me, this is one of the things that I love about Las Vegas as a community, that there's these stories about how just amazing people come together to see the vision, to shape our community, to make that impact. And, we're talking about the first run Broadway shows, the Tony musicals. I mean, all the events you said, 500 a year. But I want to weave that into this community asset standpoint from a standpoint of what you're doing for the children in the community, because I know that is an incredible program and ties right in.
Boy, does it. Long before there was a place called the Smith Center, long before there was even a good definition of what a world-class performing arts center in Las Vegas would be, we knew that one of our guiding principles would center around education. We knew that those of us who have experienced school buses full of kids arriving at a concert venue, we knew we had to have that in our city, right? I mean, our kids deserve
the energy of those kids coming here, right?
Oh my gosh! And we get to do it all the time today, these days, and it's because we made the commitment early on that kids in the Clark County School District would get the same kinds of experiences that some of us had. And my experience was in the 4th grade.
Okay.
I'll never forget being at Bunker Hill Elementary School in Houston, Texas. And this was the big field trip of the year. We planned for it. We were told, this is the day you're on your best behavior and you wear your best clothes, right? It was that day. And I remember getting on that school bus, and we drove to downtown Houston to a place I'd never been before. It was the Jones Hall, the beautiful hall in downtown Houston. And as it happens, they let our group into the lobby, and I knew we'd gone someplace really special, right?
You could feel it. You see it. You're in
awe. I knew it. And then they led my little group in this door, and as it happened, I sat 8th row center. 8th row center in Jones Hall, and I put my hands on the seats, and I felt something that I'd never felt before. And it turns out it was mohair fabric. These seats you and I are sitting on are mohair. The seats at the Smith Center are mohair because of that 4th grade experience. And here's what happened. We got seated, the house lights came down, the curtain went up, and I got goosebumps all up and down my arm.
I'm getting goosebumps listening to this story, thinking of the 4th grade you.
The 4th grade me. And I do what I do today because of that 4th grade field trip. And guess what? The year that we opened here at the Smith Center, my daughter was in the 4th grade.
Oh, my goodness. That's stars aligning. So that 4th grade trip shaped your life.
It shaped my life. It shaped my absolute commitment to us doing the same thing for kids in Las Vegas. Our kids weren't given the kinds of field trips that kids in other cities were given. And you think about it, a minute ago I talked about the families who could pack up their group and run to New York and see a show. Most families can't.
No, it's very limited.
Very limited. We wanted to be able to give kids in Las Vegas, no matter what zip code they live in or what their daddy does for a living, the opportunity to be inspired by the arts, the opportunity to get goosebumps the way that I did.
And we think through from a community standpoint, like, all right, there's plenty of things for kids to do, right? But had you not been on that fourth grade trip, you wouldn't have gone down the path you've gone down. And I think of, how many hundreds, thousands of kids that you've come through here in 12 years now.
Yes, hundreds of thousands.
Yeah. And you think about their little faces the night before, the bus ride over, the excitement here.
Joy when they walk in the building for the first time and they see that majestic space, kind of like I did, right? I see it on their faces. It'll bring a tear to your eye.
So for me, life is best looked through the eyes of a child. That amazement, holidays, and just things in general. So when you're sitting here and you're seeing another group of children come through, no matter what goes on during the week, because I know what you guys do, it's constant going, right?
Yes.
It's got to be like personally gratifying.
Well, if you ever have a bad day, I take 5 minutes out of my day and I walk down and I greet the buses and everything is okay.
Changes like that.
Yeah. But education matters that much to us. The Smith Center wasn't asked to create an award show for school teachers, yet we did. We created the Heart of Education Awards, which has honored some of the top teachers throughout our valley. We weren't asked to create Camp Broadway as a way for kids in our community to come together over the summer and learn how to sing and dance and act. We were one of the very first performing arts centers for Disney to come to and say, we'd like to do our Disney musicals and schools program with you here in Las Vegas, and we want you to go out into elementary schools and inspire kids. That all happened because of our commitment to education, Clark County School District, and our kids.
So I want to go back to before it opened. I want to get your feel of what you thought that the Smith Center could be, before it opened, while you're running around doing all the measurements and raising money and everything else. What was in your heart? What was in your vision?
Yeah, and I'm sure you're expecting me to have an answer like, to create all this artsy-fartsy stuff, right? No, I will tell you, my vision for what would become the Smith Center was to create something that back then, long ago, I called the living room for Las Vegas. The living room for Las Vegas. And what I meant was, it doesn't matter where you live here in our community. This is a place where you never know who you're going to run into in the lobby. You never know who you're going to be seated right next to. That this is a place that brings the community together. People of all backgrounds, people from all over our community and beyond, and that you're going to run into people from your neighborhood. You're going to run into people that you saw at the restaurant before you came here to see a show. But you're going to run into people that you don't see every day.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of the Smith Center, is that it's a place for those of us who live here to come together in our living room for Las Vegas.
It's that community connection. And I can say firsthand that I know when I came to a Wicked show years back, I remember waiting online to get a drink, and I feel a tap on the shoulder, and it was a friend of mine from college that I hadn't seen in probably 20 years. And it was like, okay, all right. Much different than any other experience, right? And that connection here.
And listen, there's nothing like seeing your banker here for a rock show, wearing tie-dye and carrying 6 beers back to his seats. You never know who you're going to run into or how they're going to be dressed.
All right. Well, speaking of 6 beers.
Yes.
Tell me about Myron's.
Well, so our friend Don Snyder on the 5th anniversary concert surprised me. Now, on our 5th anniversary, we produced a major event on the Reynolds Hall stage. Lots of really talented people. And because I produced it, I knew what was happening every second from the time the show started until it ended. I knew everything. I had a spreadsheet showing me
Your whole run of show.
all of that, and it was running perfectly on time. It was exactly what we wanted. And I turn my back for a minute, and I hear Don Snyder talking on a microphone on the middle of the stage. And I said, "Wait, this isn't in the script. What's going on?" And I walk to the apron, and I check to see what Don's talking about. That night, the board of directors had taken a space that I had originally named Cabaret Jazz, a 220-seat space that was great for jazz music, but also all of our Broadway friends can come to town and do cabaret kinds of shows. And it had been very successful. In some ways, it was one of the most difficult aspects of our building program to design, because the architect had one idea, the acousticians had a different set of ideas. Sure. You know, we went to different places to try to get an understanding, places like Jazz at Lincoln Center, and many others around the country, Feinstein's, trying to make sure that we were on the same page. But it was tough. And I fought for it and fought for it and fought for it. And the architect says, kind of after the fact, that he's glad that I pushed so hard, because the end result was something really spectacular. So here we are, 5th anniversary. Don is on stage.
You got your show notes.
Yes, exactly.
Off program.
What's going on? And that night, right about that moment, he calls my daughter to the stage.
Okay.
He calls my daughter to the stage? Like, really, what's going on? And they announced that the board had approved naming that space, Cabaret Jazz, renaming it Myron's. And it's a space that is booked at least 5 nights a week, almost every night. Touring professionals from around the world perform there. And it's the home for local groups like the Lon Bronson Big Band and Dave Perico's group. You know, the band that plays at Raider Stadium plays here every month. Clint Holmes has been here since the very first night we opened, and Frankie Marino. And you see, now I'm going to leave off a bunch of people, so I'll stop right there.
You're talking about a
220 seats.
Talk about an intimate setting to see that kind of talent.
To see that kind of talent with a sound system that is unmatched, an acoustic in the room that's perfect. So you go see a show there, you have a little drink, maybe a little snack, and you talk about feeling like you're in your living room. And when you're at Myron's, everything's perfect.
I'm telling you, I don't get goosebumps often, but this is about the 5th round so far today. I'm looking forward to my next visit to Myron's. I've jumped around on a few things that I've been kind of, poking and prodding to get from you.
I know it's hard to get stuff out of me.
You're really tight-lipped.
I know.
The for people that are either new to Las Vegas or even considering coming to Las Vegas, we all know there's options to come to an individual show, but I know there's other ways to get involved in the Smith Center, both from, a community standpoint, like the room that we're in today and how special that room is for people that want to take advantage of that. But what other ways can they get involved in terms of season tickets or things of that nature?
Yeah, the beauty of the Smith Center is that, especially since the pandemic, just about everything is selling out. So you don't see me out kind of pitching shows, like come buy a ticket, hurry,
right?
Buy it now before we sell out. We don't do a lot of that.
I've been looking for those emails, by the way.
Well, we do keep people up to date.
No, I know.
Because I don't want to get accused of somebody saying, well, I didn't know Hamilton was coming.
Right. Yeah, you don't want to get that phone call.
No, exactly. So there are lots of ways people can get involved. I mean, first and foremost, go to the Smith Center website, thesmithcenter.com, and see what's coming. We're going to surprise you. There is something for everyone at the Smith Center, whether it's music of all kinds, theater, dance. We do a little bit of everything. And you're going to find something that you're like, oh, God, I've always wanted to see that guy. And he's going to be right here in the Smith Center. That's where I want to see him.
Yes.
So start there. Come take a tour. If you've never been here, you're going to be surprised. People who are from Las Vegas walk in and say, this doesn't feel like I'm in Las Vegas. And that's not saying something negative about Vegas. It's a compliment to this architect, David M. Schwartz from Washington, D.C. And people who are moving here from other places say, I had no idea that Las Vegas had such an extraordinary community resource and such a comfortable place to come and be inspired. So come check it out.
Absolutely.
Once you come once,
oh yeah,
you're going to come back.
You're hooked.
You're
Absolutely.
hooked.
And I know for me, I get goosebumps every time I come in and I see the staircase going up. I mean, that is the moment for me when I look and I go, okay, this is going to be a great night. And again, what you said, it's nothing against the venues on the Strip, but I feel like I'm walking 2 miles and I'm going down a corridor and there's restaurants all over. And it's a different vibe. So when you get in here, you feel the energy. It's almost palpable.
It was built for you and all the people who are moving here. And, you know, because of you, so many people are moving here at such a pace, that it's reasonable for us to assume that many of them haven't been here yet.
Yes.
So I thank you for what you're doing and exposing folks to the Smith Center for the first time.
Thank you.
I think they're going to be happy they moved to Las Vegas when they come.
Absolutely. I think this is that hidden gem for those that don't know. Mm-hmm. For those of us that are here, we know how fortunate and lucky we are. I want to circle back. In the beginning, you had mentioned opening night and you mentioned Willie Nelson's story.
Yeah. So let me tie Mr. Smith and Willie Nelson, two very important people to the Smith Center, together.
Okay.
When Fred Smith walked to the podium the day that they announced the first $50 million gift,
mm-hmm.
Fred W. Smith stood at the podium and he said, when Don and Myron first talked to me about this world-class performing arts center, I'll be honest with you, I had no idea what they were talking about. He said, my idea of a world-class performing arts center was a beer joint where you heard Willie Nelson. And he kind of meant it, right? I mean,
that's fair.
He loved country music.
Sure.
And he loved Willie Nelson. So it was not a mistake that at the focal point of opening night that we surprised Fred Smith with his idol, and Willie Nelson came out on the stage and sang to him.
And there's number 6, by the way, as far as goosebumps go.
Yeah.
That is incredible. And so I'm assuming you had a vantage point where you could see Fred's expression?
Boy, yes. And listen, kind of warning to your editors, mm-hmm. I want to give you 30 seconds because you need to hear the story. This may make the cutting room floor for your piece, but let me tell you a story.
Please.
In the middle of the opening night, there was a moment where talent wranglers came and gathered Don Snyder, Fred Smith, and I to walk to the stage and make our comments. I didn't plan it this way.
And where is this in the show?
It's about halfway through.
Okay.
And just before John Fogerty was on stage, he was singing one of his big hits. As we are walking backstage and finding our way to the stage to make our entrance, he's singing a song that he made famous called Proud Mary.
Yep, familiar.
Fred W. Smith stopped for a second, and I kind of tapped him, and I said, "Are you okay?" And he took a second to collect himself. And he said, this was my wife Mary's favorite song. Just before we walk on stage to make our comments, John Fogerty himself was singing Proud Mary.
Yeah. Hey, I don't know that you can plan that to be that good. That's one of those interventions, right? Like just divine.
This place is filled with those stories. This was a place that at every turn we were told it's a great idea, but it'll never happen. This is a place where the Reynolds Foundation said, great idea, but it's not what we give money to. It's a place where the city, the county, and the state all came together. That's rare.
That doesn't happen often.
It doesn't happen often. The Smith Center happened because it was so important to the community, it couldn't not happen. And we always said that we want to build something for future generations, for our grandchildren's grandchildren. And that's what we have here.
Myron, I can assure you that will not be on the cutting room floor. That is exceptional. I'm honored that you would take the time out, as I know the kind of weeks that you guys have here. And from hearing the lineup of what's going on this week, it's busy. I thank you, and for everybody that's listening to this interview, I hope you got just even a slight taste of what's available here. And as you mentioned, go on thesmithcenter.com and take a look and come out and have this experience. If you're thinking about moving to our city, make this part of your stop. Don't just drive the communities and look at houses or look for jobs. Come and get a feel, because this to me is the heartbeat of the city. This is what living here as a local is all about, is being able to get to enjoy this. And Myron, I'm going to step up because I definitely want to come shake your hand. Thank you, Bernie, for taking the time. So for everybody out there, thank you for taking the time to listen to this. And we've got, I've got a tall order ahead of continuing to raise the bar, because this one got pushed up really high. Myron, thank you very much.
Thank you.